welcome to Maintain Monday. I'm your host, Crystal Foster.
And I'm your host, Destiny Bell.
And I'm your guest co-host, Tristyn DeVille.
We would like to welcome everyone, all of our viewers, to our Maintain Monday, the Young and Bold segment.
And today we're talking about greatness, and we have a wonderful guest who is well equipped to give you a play-by-play on how to get in touch with your great side.
And we're going to cut straight to this video. And after this video, we're going to come back and start the conversation.
What does great mean? Is greatness about accomplishment? Is it about being a winner? Being undefeated? Is greatness about being a leader? Is it about influencing people and leading them to be more? Is it about a political movement? A religious movement? Historically, the title of greatness has been given to those of significant power and influence. Today we look at athletes, musicians, film directors, and entrepreneurs as symbols of modern greatness. These people are winners. They struggled against all odds and came out on top. Even after many failures, they continued and won. But is this greatness? Is greatness about being the best at something? And does this level of achievement come at the cost of relationships? To succeed, time spent with others is lessened, replaced by work, constantly honing a craft, listening to that inner voice that asks, "Did you work hard enough today? Are you going to make it?" Is this what we should strive for? Each person trying to beat everyone around them and become the best of the best? To become one of the greats? Is greatness inherently selfish? But some people are able to give back to the world specifically because they achieve their goals. Artists can give hope. Athletes can inspire people to push past what they think is possible. Entrepreneurs can create charities and bring cures to diseased people groups. Cultural leaders can push societies towards better understandings of others and of themselves. These are good things, but does it excuse the way some of them treated the people closest to them on their way to the top? Or does it justify parents who push their children extremely hard?
I didn't stay home making apple brown betties. No, I made you a champion. Knowing you'd hate me for it. That's the sacrifice a mother makes. I wish I'd had a mother like me instead of nice.
Does it justify the pain these people had to go through to become more?
But suppose I told you the greatest pain of my life is the reason I'm standing here today.
What if there's a different definition of greatness? Is greatness self-sacrifice? Is greatness being a servant to a higher voice or a higher mission? Is it dedicating your life to the service of others? And does this negate other types of greatness? These are all hard questions to answer. But there are things we know. We know what greatness is not. We know that greatness is not accepting the status quo when things are seriously wrong. We know that greatness isn't blaming your situation on someone else. We know that greatness isn't waiting around for something good to happen before you start working. I think philosophical questions such as the meaning of greatness need to be asked with a pragmatic mind. We should think about how these things apply to us right now, and I think greatness should be sought after, even if it isn't perfectly defined or understood. Greatness doesn't necessarily mean the one with the most money or the most power and influence. But it does involve priorities, knowing what you want and understanding the obstacles in front of you. Don't wait for inspiration. Force yourself to work. A lot of the time, the best inspiration comes from doing, not from thinking. When you fail, shrug it off, learn, and try again. So be great. Or at least try to be.
Video was powerful, and that video explains exactly what we are going to talk about today is being great within yourself, unlocking the greatness within you. And something that stuck out to me in that video was towards the end when they said being great is not the most money you have or the position you have or anything like that. It's being great within yourself. knowing who you are, with understanding what you want and just going for it, forcing yourself to go for it and not just waiting for someone to tell you to do this or do that. And then also, it said whenever you fail, shrug it off and start over again. So what are your guys' thoughts on that video?
I feel like it sums it up to what you were saying, of being a leader as a whole, whether it's being a leader towards, your struggles or towards your highs, as I would say. Another thing that stood out was power and influence to me. You have to, going along with leadership or being a leader, you have to feel the power or, influence yourself to want to, do better, keep pushing and things like that.
What stood out to me in the video was how they acknowledge celebrities and people of a high social stature. And oftentimes people think if you have big money, a big house, nice cars, or you're in that type of life or lifestyle, you are a winner. But you have to focus on within to know what got that person, what got Ray Lewis to the point of where he is right now, because I'm sure he had to face adversity. So people looking at that video is helping our audience and everyone understand that you have to have a strength and it takes within to be great.
Now, we're going to bring on our guest today. Tristyn, will you introduce our guest for today?
Yes. Our guest today is Isaiah Swift. A little bit about Isaiah is he is a 20-year-old author and a public speaker and also a serial entrepreneur. He has a passion for inspiring today's students in high school. He drives and shares everything he learned while he was in high school, so that the students coming behind him know what to expect in the real world. And also after they graduate, Isaiah capitalized on almost every opportunity that this community offered him. So in high school, Isaiah embraced every aspect of it while learning various scholarships, grants, and prestigious awards so that he would be debt-free in college.
Okay, so we're going to bring on our guest, Isaiah Swift. Hi, Isaiah. Welcome to the Young and Bold segment.
How are you doing? I'm so honored. So glad to be here. That was, I appreciate the warm welcome and introduction, and you guys did a great job. And I'm just so glad to be here, meet you for the first time. So thank you.
It's great. It's definitely great meeting you. Now, have you had a chance to check out the video? We were speaking on a video. Can you give me your thoughts on that video of what is greatness?
Yes, like the video was awesome. I heard you all speak back and, your perspective on what greatness was. And so I'm going to kind of borrow from some of what I've heard. And I just feel like greatness overall is not living below your potential. When I was traveling to events when the world was normal and, selling copies of my book, doing book signings, one of the things I would sign in my book was Ephesians 3:20 and Philippians 4:13. And I think that Philippians 4:13 is greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. And so I feel like greatness is inside of you. It has to be a mindset. It has to be like a spirit, an attitude that you carry. And when you know that you have that greatness on the inside of you that God gives you to enable you to accomplish, some pretty incredible things, I feel like, you just become unstoppable. And that's my perspective on what greatness is.
Okay, so the title of your book is Unlock Your Greatness, which is the topic of conversation that we're having today. So right. Can you share with our audience about your book and what inspired you to dig into that unlocking your greatness aspect?
I was 19 when the idea of that book even came out. I'm 23 now, but I was a full-time student in college. And the idea behind the book was simply, I was researching online. No, I wasn't even researching. I was scrolling on Facebook one night and I came across an ad. And I don't think that was coincidence. I think maybe it just could have been like, I honestly think looking now, divine setup, that I was able to see an ad of somebody who had like a publishing company and he was looking for people who were interested in sharing their story, if they had one, with the world, and in getting their book and their message out there. So that kind of is where it started. Fast forward, I put in all my information, my phone number, everything. And the guy called me back, a few days later, and we were basically that's where the conversation started. The rest was history. I was pretty much from there convinced and sold that I had a great story and it was worth putting in the book. Coming from, not having a silver spoon in my mouth, being born and raised, with not a whole lot of advantages, to being a high school student, capitalizing on opportunities, and that leading to me being able to get a full ride scholarship to college. And the crazy thing about it was I didn't have a 4.0. And so that was like one of the main messages that I wanted students to get in the book and in a lot of the stories that I shared. So that was pretty much the idea around the book, Unlocking Your Greatness. And my main thought process during that time was, either I can wait until I'm 40 to write a book, knowing that 40 is not promised, or I can start now. And then by the time I'm old, I can look back and just kind of appreciate or be happy of the risk that I took being so young. And so I hope that answered it.
Yeah,
Your question.
Well, I do have a question, because you said that at the age of 19 is when you had the idea of the book. But when did you realize that you had something great within yourself? And I think this is important to, talk about, because as a high school student, many of them don't know what they want to be when they grow up. Some people don't even see the potential within themselves. So when did you realize you had that?
I realized it when, so I hate sharing this with people. As a matter of fact, I never share it, but my nickname is Preacher. And
Okay.
yeah, it's my mom's fault. Like we would just kind of like jokingly, to me growing up as a child, some things in church were just kind of funny. So I would come home and like, imitate or act or stuff like I saw in church. So my mom was like, you do such a great job at it. And that's how I got the nickname Preacher. But anyway, in school, I remember being in the 5th grade, and at my promotion ceremony, they we all got our awards and everything. And then afterwards, they gave us this really nice reception. And this was in front of not just my classroom, but the whole entire 5th grade class at my school. And my teacher got up and asked me to pray over the food. And like, I had no idea I was going to be called on. And so I'm looking at her like, what? But I was kind of like just not, in my right mind at that time. So I think I got up and prayed something like Jesus wept, and then went back to my seat. I was just not taking that seriously at the time. But that's when I kind of, it dawned on me, because it was at least over 100 kids in that auditorium, that wow, I literally got called on out of all of these people to pray over the food. And that's when I kind of sensed that, there was some greatness, there was some potential there.
So since, another question.
Yeah.
Since you wrote your
Sure.
book, based on, your experiences in high school, have you ever, thought about writing another book about your college experiences?
Like when the time is right, like sometimes you can just get, a lot of people don't even know about the first book. And that's the cool thing about my book. Came out so young, and it really didn't, it still has the potential to reach so many more people. And, I've branched out and did a couple of other things like podcast wise. business-wise, entrepreneurial-wise. And so I think eventually when the time is right, I would love to write, I think an ebook. Everyone is doing like an ebook with the online space growing, and people aren't necessarily ordering like physical copy or going to the stores anymore to buy like physical copies. And so I can definitely see myself doing an ebook and talking about a lot of just not college, but just personal branding, like so many different things. Like people don't even know when I was in college, I had a t-shirt business. And my sophomore year, I did like 40,000 in sales on just being on campus, capitalizing on, you know, getting orders from local businesses. And so, you know, it's just so many things that I could talk about and, you know, be more than willing to share in the next book. And so.
Okay, so of course, in your book, you speak on experiences that you have dealt with in high school. So what is one experience that stood out to you that was kind of a life lesson that happened in high school that you still do, that you still think about today, and something that you would tell the high school student now, and a life lesson that you've learned based on experience that you've had?
That's a great question. I think I'm trying to remember it, like what I wrote in the book. It was so long ago, but either I got like a D in chemistry or algebra or something. And most people aren't going to come out and tell you that they failed in a grade or something, a class. They want you to think you were straight A's your whole life or whatever. But that was like probably one of the best things that could have happened. I recall having like this really awesome, incredible teacher at the time that kind of just really pushed me. And so, you know, it really encouraged me, pushed me, and that kind of taught me that, you know, even like certain setbacks or mistakes that you make, you can always overcome regardless of the situation. And if that would have never happened, that situation where my grade dropped or whatever the case may be, then, you know, I would have never been able to, you know, kind of build that thick skin to kind of just keep pushing forward, moving forward. And so I kind of carry that with me pretty much anywhere, that mindset that, you know, regardless of the setback, you know, it's always possible to, you know, I mean, I'm here today because of me being able to progress. And I think like other students, that's something that I want them to be able to take away as well.
And when you just mentioned that, I actually read your book, and I read that chapter, and it was a chemistry. And in that book, you said that your teacher offered coach class, but it was in the morning. So you had to get your mom, and your mom was able to get you up 5 o'clock in the morning for you to get to the coach class before school. So to say that goes to show that you took advantage of the opportunity to better yourself, knowing that, you know, you didn't want your grade to stay that low. So obviously you had to sacrifice something in order to progress and persevere through that time. And that is part of being great, or unlocking the greatness or your potential to be great at that point. So that is definitely a good example and a great life lesson, not only for high school students, but anybody that may be dealing with any situation. You have to, in order to be great within that situation, you have to go ahead and just, you know, take it upon yourself to think outside the box and go beyond what you might think will get you through it, but just, you know, take it through, go throughout the situation. But you
now, I know that your book is, I know that your book is really good for everyone from high school to even me and your TED Talk, but do you think that the younger version of yourself would be like surprised where you are right now? Like, you have your own TED Talk.
Right.
Like, do you know how big you are? You have your own TED Talk. You have to be important to do that.
Can you repeat that last part? I just heard the TED Talk part.
Oh, do you think the younger version of yourself would be surprised at where you are right now?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's humbling. Like it is very humbling. Like, you guys don't understand this. It might be like this might be a great opportunity for you guys, but it's also even more humbling for me. And it brings, like, just fulfillment. It doesn't feel like right now I'm working. It just feels like in a really great space. Earlier today, I had another interview, and I mean, it's almost unreal. People won't even believe it. The guy was in South Africa, and he owns this really large media agency, and he wants to do an article on me. And he was asking me, when are you gonna put out another book? And so just to have people like interested or in some way or shape or form impacted, it just even inspires me. That's like fuel for me to keep going. I think the younger version of me would be, impressed. Even though I do like still challenge myself, I try never to get like so comfortable or whatnot, and just always try to challenge myself. And another thing I was going to share about the TEDx talk, people don't even know this because I don't even like really tell it, but on the day of I had to speak, I don't know if you all had a chance to look at the part of it or not, but I did the whole thing off the top of my head. I was this full-time student, and that entire week, I remember it just being like, so it was a lot, just demands, homework, quizzes, tests. I had another school conference that same week, right after I flew to California to do the TEDx event. I had another conference in Detroit that same weekend, and it was just like a whole lot. So I wasn't able to make the rehearsal, and I pretty much had to do like a informal rehearsal over the phone or something. So, but it's just when I got there, I pretty much touched on stories and things that were already in the book. A lot of the information I just already knew, and I just kind of, flowed, and so people are, kind of seeming to learn a thing or two from it, and that's great as well. So just great experiences. I'm just glad to share them. In.
Back to the first video we watched, it gave pointers of what greatness wasn't. And I wrote down 2 of them, and it said, greatness is not blaming someone else or accepting the status quo. Do you think you've ever, caught yourself blaming someone else or accepting the status quo in any situation?
Yeah, you can blame other people. I mean, I have been guilty of it, but if you, in doing that, you realize you got to ask yourself the question, okay, how far is this going to get me? And, there are probably things that you can do that are within your control. And, a lot of people in my age group just have to understand and know, and it might be just some like maturity level thing, not to blame this person or that person for, where you are. I mean, by me being 23 and having the mindset to be able to accomplish some of the things that I set out to do in my mind, I would have never been able to get this far without, by blaming someone else for whatever the reason may be, but really just by, believing in God and having enough confidence, and knowing that greatness is on the inside of me. So
throughout your book, you speak on, of course, you speak on your experiences, but you also speak on capitalizing off of different experiences as far as like volunteering and things of that nature. So what do you think, why do you think volunteering is so important? And then just to give people, our viewers, an idea of how important doing different activities and being involved, not necessarily doing stuff just because everybody else is doing it, or why do you think things like volunteering is important as having a job?
I went to like early on in high school, one of my very first volunteer events, and it was for this well-known nonprofit organization that was in my hometown, and they basically offered home like children and families that were homeless. They offered living facilities for them to temporarily stay, and so they had this annual auction fundraiser that they had held, and it was at the Marriott Hotel. They decked it out, tables and just really a really nice event, and they invited people to come, other companies to come and sponsors to come and bid on artwork that the children had created that were living in these shelters. And so they would come and bid and raise money, and they had a consistent track record every year of raising over $1 million annually. So when I got there to the event to kind of help set up with everything, I remember one of the first ladies I met, she stood out to me. She had on some sneakers and a pair of jeans, and I just saw her working, and I just walked up to her. Maybe she walked up to me or whatnot, but she reached out her hand. She shook my hand, and she introduced herself. She said, "I'm the CEO of this organization." And I just thought, wow, you're here. You are. I'm walking in, kind of blindsided. I don't know what to really expect at this volunteer event. And then I just like that, I met the CEO of this organization, and I was able to build a relationship from there. And I actually came back the following year to be a part of that same exact event. So I think just opportunities like that, volunteering, being able to you never know who you're going to rub elbows with. And it's not so much to volunteer just so you can, get an opportunity or just meet somebody. But like I said, I kind of went into that situation unknowingly, not knowing what to expect. And the turnout was pretty great till this day. I think that was one of the stories I kind of touched on in the book. And so, I mean, I have another example of a volunteer event that I went to, and just being able to meet, you never know, who you're going to meet and what type of relationship that's going to build. And that's something that I would just recommend to a lot of people in my age group, middle, high school, college. Use your 20s to just focus on relationship building, because that's going to go a long way in your career. Your network is your net worth. That's like a really big thing right now. People are finally realizing, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. And so volunteering gives you a really great foundation and lays the groundwork, and it can open up some really cool doors, and you can help somebody in return. And, you might think, well, I'm doing this for free, but really you are benefiting in a way, if you look at it long term. So,
yeah, and just to piggyback off of what you said, volunteering not only allows you to rub elbows with people that you never thought you would, but it also gives you that experience. It also gives you the experience. Like for me, I am 13 years out of college, but I'm out of college. But in my college years, I volunteered at a lot of different businesses and organizations and stuff. And I was able to gain the experience. Some of the experience I have now dates back to the what I volunteered for in college, because that gives you, when you graduate from high school or even college, a lot of people, some colleges look at the volunteer experience on your college applications. And then even out of college, the jobs will look at the volunteer just to see if, and then it makes you an overall people's person, and it allows people to know, jobs to know that you work with people well and things of that nature. So that's why I feel like volunteering is definitely important.
I graduated high school in 2019. Shout out to the Institute of Notre Dame It's close. I know that, I learned circumference of a circle, and I just thought, when am I gonna use this in life? So you're teaching me and other people things that are actually going to, I'm going to value, like leaving this interview will be beneficial for me and our viewers. So I know that you said in the TED Talk to stay outside of the box and make sure you stay inside of your lane. And I think that's important because often we compare other people's journeys, and sometimes it's unconscious. You get stuck on social media and you're like, oh, he has a house and I'm still living with my mom. So when did you realize that it was important to really focus on what you're doing and not to compare?
I don't know if there was like an exact moment that I realized it, but I'm constantly aware of, kind of, you sometimes fall into that trap of you'll look at somebody and you'll see somebody's highlight reel on the internet, and then you'll just kind of have that moment where it's like, oh man, how did you get that? And then when you compare, it almost leaves you feeling empty, when in the reality is they're not showing you really don't even know the facts. Like, you don't know the price that person had to pay, if they had to pay a price at all. Like, we don't really know the real story. And if you just research, and I'm in the process of doing this more, being intentional about this, but if you just research like the effects that social media, Instagram likes, that feature has had on people's psychology, these social media companies are starting to realize that they've done a little bit more harm than good anytime, social media becomes as addicting as nicotine. Like, it has the same effects on people's, the way they think and the way they compare themselves. And so, you want to just kind of manage that, take time off of social media if you need to, and not just so much focus on, of course you want to, some people are up there to connect with family and friends and whatnot, but I like to be on the giving end as well as not just the receiving end. So if you're going to be on social media, it's nothing wrong with being up there, but if you're just up there for the sake of scrolling or looking at pictures or keeping up with the latest, whatever, then you're receiving content and you're getting this overload of information, it's not really going to take you that far. You know what I mean? But if you're up there and you have you're intentional about giving, about providing a service, about providing a value, like if you have a product or something that a market of people that are interested in what you're doing, because for some people, they have to be on social media every day because it's a part of their livelihood. But then I would say, yeah, let that be, something that you're focused on doing and be intentional about it. But, also it's just important not to get tied up into just all of the noise right now and what people are doing. And just it helps you stay focused as a person, helps you stay grounded as a person. So.
Now, we are coming to a close of our show, but I did want to ask you, before we started recording, you mentioned something about courses that you have. Can you explain to our viewers the courses? And then we'll be sure to post your website and all of that good information for people to be able to reach out to you. But can you explain the courses that you have?
Yes. So the biggest question I get asked a lot of by people who know me is, when you publish your book and you become an author, everyone asks you, how can I write a book? What's the process like? And so I would just kind of voluntarily, if I had the time, try to help people and schedule Zooms and do all this. And it was a little time consuming. So I created a 12-step course on how to write your book from start to finish, which can probably help you get your book finished in about 30 days or less. And it just teaches you, I did a video on how to come up with the title, how to come up with the chapters, how to outline your book, how to prevent and avoid writer's block, which you have a lot of people that say they're going to write a book. 10 years later, they still talking about they're going to write a book because they didn't really, when you feed your focus and on what you want. When you feed your focus, you're going to eventually end up accomplishing that end goal. But people don't know how to really eliminate their distractions and whatnot. I talk about all that in those courses. So these are literally just things that I did in my process, and that's what I wanted to offer as to help someone else. I have a how to land a TEDx talk webinar coming July 10th. That's basically just going to be talking about tips that you can use in your application process. If you need, my assistance with that, I'll have another opportunity for you to work one-on-one with me where I can kind of find some for you, help you apply and work on your presentation and whatnot. So that's what that course, that website entails, and the link should be available to you all to check it out. And so I'm just happy to finally have it after 3 years of my book coming out, just to finally offer that.
Yes, definitely. So we'll definitely be able to post that information for our viewers to reach out for anyone that's interested in, writing a book and would like your help with that. Now, we have to wrap up the show now, but I do want to take a little bit of time for you to provide your contact information. And if you can put your book website out there for people to purchase your book, just tell us where people can find you to get in touch with Isaiah Swift.
So I'm on Instagram out of everywhere, just Instagram at Isaiah Swift _ ISAIAH SWIFT _. The book is on Amazon as well. You just type in Isaiah Swift. But if you want to order a copy and have me sign it for you, then you can email Isaiah, ISAIAH @IsaiahSwift.com, and I can get you a personalized copy of the book. The course website is swiftsuccessacademy.com, and that's just the best way to reach me. And you guys now know where to find me. I'm glad and thankful that I was able to be on the show. I enjoyed myself, had such a great time. Thank you for just thinking about me down here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I was glad we were able to make it happen.
I would like to just thank Isaiah Swift for being a guest with us today. That was absolutely amazing. And I hope some of our younger audience had a chance to take some nuggets from this interview with him, because he's left a lot of nuggets for us to take advantage of. And again, thank you for watching us. You can catch the Young and Bold segment right here every fourth Monday of each month.
And we will now end the show with Isaiah's TED Talk.
Thank you.
So I challenge you all on today to think outside the box. Look at everyone around you and figure out, what is it that I can do differently? Because you're never going to be able to get ahead in life by being in the crowd. There's something that you have to do that stands out, that makes you set aside, that makes you set apart from the pack. I would have never in my life imagined that, although in high school I didn't have the athletic ability like all the other students, I didn't have the, the appearance. One thing I had was knowledge. And I knew that with knowledge, my knowledge, your knowledge, all that you have, I could use it one day to acquire power. I didn't graduate high school with a 4.0 GPA, but I realized that it's not about your GPA in life. It's about your skills, what you can bring to the table, and being in a position of value. And as I was making that transition from high school to college, it made me think about that time I was in third grade, that time when I went to the store, got that candy, filled it up to the top in that bag, shoved it in my book bag, and while my teacher was teaching in front of the classroom, I was running a business. And in the lunchroom, while everybody else was eating lunch and just chit-chatting, I was going around making transactions and keeping my coins, because I probably charged them more than 50 cents for 2 lollipops, keeping all those coins shoved in a sandwich bag. I want you all to do something for me. One, think outside the box, step outside the box, never fit in. And secondly, I want you all to stand up real quick, because there's no way I can call this Awaken Your Greatness without some motivation, some participation, and this wasn't even scripted. I want you all to clap once. I want you all to clap twice. I want you all to clap 3 times. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Think about it. Before you all go to college, before you all finish college, before you all even think about what it is, whatever major or degree or whatever you want to accomplish in life, even if you decide not to go to college, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Your gifts on the inside of you, you have to offer those things to the world. The world is waiting on it, and the world is depending on you. I want you all to clap once. I want you all to clap twice. I want you all to clap 3 times. You all just gave yourself a hand, because 10 years from now, those gifts on the inside of you that you've just awakened, they're going to come out. You all are going to be in positions of value. You all are going to be in positions of great wealth, great authority, great knowledge. And the world, whatever your sphere of influence is, whatever your circle is, those gifts that you all have right here, they're going to be valuable to the people around you. And that is what is going to enable you to have dominion. So I want you all to clap now for yourselves so you all can get used to it and normalize that feeling. Clap once, clap twice, clap 3 times. I appreciate it. Awaken your greatness. Thank you for having me.